We have Jamaal Hasef Tolbert, who was born in Inglewood, California, a multidisciplined artist whose work focuses on social, political, and cultural issues. He says he gets his artistic genes from his mother and his righteousness from his father. Jamaal uses video, sculpture, and painting to investigate the African diaspora and transatlantic memory and their effects on the American social structure. He encourages viewers to reconsider their role in social construction, civil rights, and white cultural. I had to look up how to say this word. Hegemony. Jamaal writes, "We live in interesting times that suggest great transformation is at hand, one that will change the way we perceive race, privilege, and individual value." Jamaal graduated with a BA from California State University of Bakersfield. He attended the Sotheby's Art Institute in London and received his Master's of Fine Arts in Studio Art at Claremont Graduate University. He currently has work in the group exhibition Invisible Minds of Contemporary that he also curated with Philip Martinez at Santa Ana College. The exhibition will run until the 6th of April. Help me in welcoming.
Okay, hi everybody, my name is Jamaal Tolbert. Hi everybody. So I'm just going to talk about myself a little bit first, and then I'll get into some work. We'll go to my website, so I couldn't look it up on my computer because of the age difference between technologies. All right, so well, let's see. I was born in Inglewood in Centinela Hospital on November 1st, 1989. And I don't know, I've been doing art ever since I was little. My mom said she painted a lot while she was pregnant with me, so I guess that's where it comes from. She also does hair. She's a cosmetologist. And so she was doing that as well while she was pregnant with me. So I just came out like making stuff and doing things, all creative. I don't know, all through middle school, it was kind of like, they would say like, oh, like one of my teachers, he always promoted that, Mr. Moore, he always promoted that I was going to be an artist. He told mom and dad, like, no, he's going to be an artist, he's going to be an artist. And so, but they would be like, yeah, architect. And I'd be like, oh yeah, architect. So like, I like the idea behind architecture as well too, because you get to like build things and make things and get all creative with that aspect as well too. But you also have to do math, and I didn't like math. So, so applying like in high school, I mean, I did art all the way through, like all throughout school, grade school, middle school, high school. We were raised, I have an older brother, a younger sister. We were raised in LA and in Lancaster, California. So, which was interesting because we were raised, I feel like we moved there when I was like 3 or 4 in Lancaster. And they got a house, but we was living in the jungles. And the jungles is like over in the middle area, down at the mountain. And growing up, it was like, I don't know, my dad always taught us to love our black selves and like that, you know, black's beautiful and you're all beautiful and love your big lips and big nose and dark skin. Like, so we didn't have no issues like with our skin colors and all of that. And so we played, our neighborhood, our street was like very diverse. Like we got to play outside with like all the kids and everybody got along. It wasn't until I moved here, we moved back here for 5th grade. I went to 54th Elementary School. And like, it was like similar to Kim, like it was all black kids. So I had never been to a school, it was like all black kids. So here I am coming from like Lancaster, and so they're like, why you talk like that? So I'm thinking like, what do I talk like? It's because I was lost. They was like that, and I was like, well, I'm still not understanding. So apparently I was talking white. But I had never heard that reference, like, what do you mean talking white? So there was like dealing with that, and them thinking like, because I did my homework, like, oh, you think you're better because you did your homework? And so dealing with all these different like constructs that I'm not expecting to happen from people that look like me. And so there was dealing with that, and so after going back to middle school, we moved back again to Lancaster because my mom was like, yo, I'm not going to high school in LA, that's out. So we ended up going to high school in Lancaster, and then it's not until then until I started dealing with like racial issues, like, because they would always ask us growing up, like, is there any identity, like, any racism things happen at school? We'd be like, no, we good, like, everybody's, we all cool. But it's not until high school where things, like, I see the difference and how the treatment of, like, certain students versus other students, and who's going to, like, as for example, our counselors, high school counselors, them secluding all the black kids, telling them they're all just going to go to community college, not that there's anything wrong with community college, but, like, all the other kids were told they were going to, like, universities and Cal States, and I was like, why the hell I can't go to the University of Cal State? But my mom already told me I was going, so there was no issue. But still, it was just like, I was telling other kids, like, you know, you don't have to go, you can go to this school. And they were like, but our GPAs, I was like, so what? Like, we still go. You just gotta apply. I ended up attending, well, I didn't get accepted to any colleges, first of all, for undergrad. I just kind of showed up to Cal State Bakersfield, and no, I'm serious. I showed up, and they're like, yeah, just bring a bag, you're gonna stay here for like 8 weeks, and then you can go here. And I was like, okay, and so like, it was a summer bridge program through EOP. I didn't have to fill nothing out, I didn't do any paperwork, no nothing. And then like, I just went to the program, and then I was going to college, so that's all I know. And so, I know my mom and dad paid for my first year of school, so I didn't major in art right away, because they was paying. So, and they were like, what are you majoring in? And I was like, I want to do art. And they were like, I was like, I'm undecided. I was undecided, but I know I was going to major in art. So, I got financial aid the next year, and because my sister started going to college, so they didn't have to pay anymore, so then I majored in art. So then I remember they kept calling me for like 2 months straight. You just gonna major in art? What kind of jobs you gonna get? It's gonna be hard, you're gonna struggle. And I'm just thinking like, I was like, it wouldn't be a major if I was gonna struggle or if I couldn't get a job, like, you know, so I continued to do it, and then I ended up taking a sociology class, and I ended up liking sociology, so I double majored with a minor in Black Studies, which like developed my whole framework for like my artwork. So like I incorporate like a lot of sociological issues within my artwork and how I like capture my concepts and ideas. I remember, of course, like in any art program, there's normally not a lot of black kids. So it was more blacks in my sociology program, so I was like more geared towards that one. But I was like invested in art as well, but I would just go to them to like vent and like, you know, get all my issues out that I was having. And I came up with these different concepts. I learned about, well, first I started doing sculptures first, and I learned how to weld, and I started making all these different sculptures. I was like fascinated with the shape of Africa, and so like I was doing all these like research studies, like what can I do, like what different materials I can use. So I had learned how to weld in like a day, and I just went crazy and just started welding everything in undergrad, and it was like all this free metal, and I was the only one welding, so it was like non-metal. So whenever somebody else would use it, I'd be like, what are you doing? And you get away. And I was doing all these large scale, like crazy sculptures. I even made I made one sculpture, a water fountain, and it had bullets in it. And I used like cement and cemented the bullets in it, and the water fountain like ran across the African continent with the bullets in it. And so I made this sculpture not knowing I'm going to get in trouble, right? So, because it was like real bullets. So, because I just went to Walmart and bought them. I'm like, okay, so I come back the next day, and then my whole sculpture is like nowhere to be found. So I'm like, and I have to present it. So I'm like, wait, where's my sculpture? Like, I'm like looking for it. They're like, oh, it's locked inside of this some container or some like lock they did. So I like broke the handle, and I was like, somebody just take my sculpture and not tell me. So I took it out, and then I went and set it up for presentation, and then they're like, I see my teachers like running around going crazy, and all my teachers are white. So they're like, where's the sculpture? I was like, sit in the room. I set it up. Like, ready, I'm about to present. Like, come. And they're like, no, you have to get it off campus now. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, I shocked because I didn't put all my like heart into building this like beautiful fountain. And they're like, like, well, it has bullets, where's the gun? And I was like, where's the gun? I was like, I don't own a gun. They were like, well, you have bullets. And I'm like, yeah, because I just went to the store and bought them, because they was like, for sale, you can just buy bullets as long as you're 18 and over. So they're like, oh, well, it's live ammunition. You can't have that on campus. I was like, well, where does it state that? So they're like, look through the handbook and look in, and they can't find it. And they're like, well, you just can't have bullets on campus. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I just feel like I was being singled out. And I took it all the way up to the dean and all that, but they ended up letting me present it, and I just took it off campus. But it was just interesting dynamics happening in the art department as a black person. So even with like asking about grad school, and me wanting to go to grad school, and them telling me like, why do you want to go to grad school? You should just wait. And I was like, well, why am I waiting? And then there was no response, of course. And then one of my teachers, Joyce Cole, who's a sculptor at Cal State Bakersfield, she was like, oh, you want to go to grad school? She was like, you know, we have connections with Claremont. So I was like, okay. So she was like, I think if you apply, you'll get in. She was like, I don't see why not. So for my thesis at Cal State Bakersfield, I did like this video dealing with shadism, because we were studying like shadism and sociology, and I was like, what does that look like visually? So I like to take the ideas and concepts that I was learning in sociology and then bring them to life through art. So, because I just thought like sociology is low-key boring, and visuals will make it better when you have visuals. So I did this video dealing with like black people and light skin and being dark skin, and I would have like the light skin people put on the black thing and the dark skin people put on white. And so it's like an hour long, but it's like this little slow-mo little video I made, and it goes into each different person and concept, and it like shows their different emotions, and then like some of the video clips are reversed, so you can like see the different dynamics, and it was like really fun because all my friends participated, and I didn't think they would, and even some of the black girls, they were putting in their hair, which I was like super fascinated because black girls in their hair, you know. So there's that whole entire concept as well. Yeah, but this one, yeah, and it came from like the idea when we were studying the black face and white face and the dynamics of American society, and how like you're never light enough, you're never dark enough. It's like you can't win. So it's like, why go through all these things? Just accept who you are, because then it goes with them rinsing it off as well too towards them. But yeah, it was very like meditative, like seeing the motions and everything. But yeah, I turned this in for grad school, and then they were like, oh yeah, we like that, we want you to come. So I got into Claremont, and I was I was 22, turning 23. So I went right out of undergrad to grad school. And so I don't know what I'm doing, like I'm just like, just get a master's degree, because that's what I should do. So and my brother had a master's degree, so I was like, if he got a master's degree, I'm gonna get a master's degree. Right. So starting at so going back to my mom doing hair. So when I originally got there, I went to my mom's salon, and I took a whole bunch of stuff. So she had like all these old pieces of hair that she wasn't using, and different products, gels, everything. And it was just always so interesting when I was telling them type of work, when I was showing my professors the work, they'd be like, well, you know Mark Bradford, you know, his mom did hair too. And I was like, okay, his mom ain't the only one that did hair. Bringing that up. So I was doing these different pieces on campus, and on these like panels. And I was like gluing the hair and using the hair glue and using joint compound, mixing it with different colors, and coming up with these different crazy concepts and coloring the hair and using the spritz. And then I had this black foil, and I was just getting all like creative with different concepts and just experimenting when I first got to grad school. This is joint compound and Pro Style Gel with the dark black one. So I was like really interested in like how when it dries, it spreads and you get this different context on the canvas. And like versus when you if you let it dry in a room, it like a slower process and it will like mellow out nicely. Whereas versus you put it in the sun, you get more of the flaky look, and then like you get all these different textures. So it was like really cool to experiment with that. and coming up with the different concepts. And then I went and bought these like synthetic bags of hair that they use for braiding because it was cheap. It was like $3, so I bought a whole bunch of them. And then I started doing these different canvas works with it and sticking them onto the canvas. And these are all untitled, they don't have titles or names. But just getting more creative with the conceptual context and abstract. And then I did this one, which is Untitled Lips, because of the black pair of lips. Different directions, you get different context of things. So just and I mean, some people will say it's an eye, eyelashes, so it's like a whole bunch of different things. So that one's really cool. These are all like pretty small. Again, this is clear ice gel and pro style black gel. And so this one was really cool because when I put it on the wall and set it in the light, I got these little dripping effects from it being hot, and it was like melting, but then it dried. So it was really dope. Again, another one with gel, hair gel. And again, the texture and the different patterns you can see, the thickness and the different layerings. And that's just regular acrylic paint. And then I got into some more video at Claremont. And so I was reading the ISIS papers and by Dr. Frances West Wilson, and which is a really super dope book, and she's like super amazing. I was just doing these mixtures of like different videos, and so this is like my pre-editing concepts, and during this time, this pop commodity called Twerk Team was like out, and so I took some of their videos and I added Mary and gospel and like all these different concepts and contexts to see like how they all conjoin and like work with one another. And it was also very fascinating, like seeing people watch it and walk by. So yeah, there's that, and then I was going through this thing at Claremont. So again, I'm the only black person in the department at this point. So I'm like, I can deal with this. So some of the Chinese, then we had a lot of international Chinese students in the program. So in China, their perception of us, they don't get to see black people in real life all the time. Like they don't see us on TV. So when they saw me, they were like, "Oh, this is my chance." Like, so I had a like afro. So they walked up to me. They were like, "I like your hair," and I was like, "Oh, thanks." And they were like, "Oh, can I touch it?" So because they were asking and they were like inquiring, it wasn't like I didn't feel attacked or anything. And they came and asked, so I was like, "Okay, you're from China, like, okay, you can touch my hair." So they're like, "Oh, it's soft, oh." And I was like, "What were you expecting?" And they're like, "I don't know." And I just think it's like the different stereotypes from what they see and how they perceive us through the media. Like they have all these misconceived like notions about what black people are. So when they see somebody different, it's like a shock. And so, and then them learning like how American culture works as well. So it's like all these different dynamics. So then I made this video called Get Out of My Hair in 2013. And basically I had a bunch of my white classmates come. And like, cause you know, I like go through this whole process of like shaping it and you pick it out and you gotta like pat it down and then get the form right. And then for somebody to just come and run their hands through your hair, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? And then it's like, the whole process is like destroyed. So it shows me like looking all dramatic and crazy and then them just like ramming their hands after I like went through this whole process. And you get this weird like, psychedelic look. Because basically that's what's happening. When I feel the hand, I I just go into this video. You're like, what's happening? So yeah, there's that. And this was a loop, so just a loop. I like to do a lot of loops with my video works. And then, what was justified on this side? Oh, so this was more of an installation I did, and had these two paintings. So in Dr. Frances Cress Wilson's book, she does these different drawings of, and she talks about how genetic annihilation and how like white people have this fear of being like eliminated by black people if they have sex with us. So and how they have this obsession with the black male penis. So she did these different drawings of them, and yeah, and it's like these like more like regular basic shapes, but you get the like phallic symbols, and then the scissors and the gun, and how they all relate when you're dealing with a black male, and that creates this whole fear, like the gun, black penis, and all of that. So she like goes into that. So I made this video of her speaking about it, and then they had the two paintings on the side. And I like made it more like a more alien, because it's more like an alien topic that people don't like to talk about. So I like to really change the voice. So yeah, she breaks it down about justified homicide and genetic annihilation. And you get the images on the side. And then I went into more of my hair, because I had this, I was growing my hair out at the time in 2012. I had just started, so I was always picking my hair. So I recorded myself because I was more fascinated with the sound that I hear from when I'm picking my hair, and I was just like, that whole entire sound. I'm like all into sounds, because like growing up in the hair salon and watching my mom, just like you hear all these different sounds. I think they're weapons. They're using all these weapons to do their hair. It's a lot of sharp objects, and they're like trusting this person to not harm them and sit in their seat. And it's funny, well, I'll talk about it in a few minutes, but I'll talk about when we get to leaves, what I used to think I was done. But this one's called Afro Sounds. And the volume is low, but it's like this breaking noise. And these are all projected, and there's like sound in the room, so you are able to get the full experience. And so, another concept I was working with was from Dr. Frances Cress Wilson with this genetic weapon, dealing with the black male penis. So I was like, ooh, I can like play with that idea and concept and like do a video. So I made this here video, which you lose, and it has like these different stops and hit points. So it was just like when watching this video, it's always like people are like, oh, I thought you were going to take out your body. Because, and then it's going to this whole idea of like the black man and the black body being over-sexualized and them wanting to see it, but then it doesn't happen and they're like, want to walk away, but they don't want to walk away because the anticipation, they're like, nah, what's going to happen? So it leads up to this whole like little thing. So that was the genetic weapon. And then I went into, in 2013, I did this video installation. It was called B, and it was inside of a room, and it was different types of dealing with black identity and what black identity means to different black people. So I got all these different black people from all different backgrounds, and I interviewed them discussing what they thought black was. And I did up close visuals of all their features and skin. And it was projected onto this black curtain. And in the room I had these tar paper slates. So it gave like a scent of tar in the room, the black tar. And you would go in and sit and you can like in the environment. And a lot of the international responses were like really, really good. Because they grow up differently as black people living in other countries. So. But this is like really long, so give me some time. It's on my website. And then I was working on some more sculptures. So I was doing like a lot of letters as well. So this is one I did for my first thesis, first year show in grad school. It's called Still I Rise. So when I work with metal, I like to work with more of my abstract shapes and let gravity decide if it's going to hold or not. And I just weld it into place until I feel like it's done. So this one was called Still I Rise, and it was about 14 feet tall. And everybody's like, how'd you do the math? I was like, I did it. I just made it work until it didn't fall over no more. So, and then I made another one called My Chain, which is a big, giant Jesus cross chain that I made because I was interested in gold jewelry that rappers wore, and they always wear like these like crosses, but they're not saying anything that way at all in the music. So just the idea that it looks nice. And then I did another one with this one called The Cross, which is a video and sculptural installation that I made. And it was an installation inside of a room, and the projector went onto the floor into the shape of the cross. And it's this video footage of, this is this really cool website where you can like download free clips from like old movies or the news or documentaries, and you just type in the year and it like lists it, or you type in whatever topic, and then like you can download it for free and you can like use it for whatever. And when I get the name of that website, I'll tell you. And so it was a video of these people. It was this weird movie of this person who died. It was like in 1920. It was a black and white film of this black person who died. They like got shot accidentally by their uncle, and then like the soul came out. And they were like trying to bring it back. So like the spirit was like walking around, and then they were like they could see everything that was happening. But it just goes to like, because I guess they didn't believe in God, and then they died, and then they had to like believe to get back or something like that. But they were like marching and doing the baptisms, like the old school style on the lake and stuff. So, and they were singing this song called "When I Get to Heaven." And so basically this was just more of a take of like how religion and like going to church really isn't that big with like millennials. And like we're doing other things other than church. And like doing other things on our Sundays instead of like spending our day at church. So this is the video. Oh, and I took this excerpt from this other movie called Goodbye Uncle Tom. And it's basically the scene in the beginning where they're like having this dinner, this table like all white people, and they're like discussing how they're gonna like keep black people oppressed and like how it's gonna work. And then you hear this baby crying at the bottom because he's like hungry, and they're like eating, and they're like throwing chicken bones down at him, and he didn't like give him one. But it's like, so I combine that with them singing like the Jesus song, and like how like they kept they kept the slaves calm by giving them gospel music and Jesus singing all of that.
Let's take the classic examples of Greek and Roman convince you to it's all that makes us strong. The man contempt remain as no man.
And it's a 2-speaker channel, so like if I had the sounds. And he's basically saying God is white, and as long as God is white, we shall prevail over all people. So, and keeping them oppressed, basically. So, who's talking about that? So some past show, let's bring it up to date. And this was in 2015. So after all those series of like church fires that happened, I did some paintings about them called Black Arson. So each painting is like dedicated to like one church. So they had pictures, so I got pictures of all the churches and what they look like. And then I like made paintings based off the materials that was left after the different ashes. So I used like ashes, different Bible verses, and I like taped them to the canvas. And I got a whole bunch of dirt and dust, and then I set them on fire. And then this was the outcome, and I used a little black acrylic paint. And they're actually up on display right now at Santa Ana College at the Arts Development. But yeah, Black Arson by the numerous church burnings that sparked in South Carolina, the church massacres. And it was interesting because each church burned down differently. They had different materials that were used, so they all like, not that it looked cool or anything, but like the aftermath and like what was left, like the different, like seeing the different Bibles that were burning, how they were burning, how some pages didn't burn, and then the different colors that were left over it, the different blues that you could see. So I was just like adding that onto the canvas to capture that whole identity experience. And then back to video. So then I got into more of it being in my work. Like the first one where I started doing like more performance and like being in my work was the get out of my hair. But you notice I wasn't looking at the camera because I didn't like being in front of the camera. Even though like now I'm like, okay, if you see my Instagram, I like take pictures and stuff. I post a lot of but it didn't used to be like that. So I did this one called an installation video piece untitled Masculinity Gestures. So it was a note, discussing like basically how like the media and then like rap music, like how like the styling and clothing culture had changed. So it went from like these like early 1996 to like early 2000s. Like everybody's wearing like these 3X shirts and like oversized pants. And then around like 2006-ish, like then it went to like, okay, wear clothes that fit you. Until like now it's like skinny jeans and like postures are changing, like the whole gestures and everything about like what's perceived to be masculine is like different. So I did this video about it showing like the 3 different, how I perceived it to be. And so it's just a slow motion clip and it played inside of the room and it's pretty dope.
That's too dramatic.
I can wear skinny jeans at the time, I can't wear them anymore, but at that time. But yeah, I mean, it goes for a good, 4 minutes, but it moves throughout it. And then I went back to my mom's hair salon. So I went out to Lancaster for something because I don't like going out there because I don't to do. So I was like, okay, Mom, I'm coming. I'm gonna make some artwork in the shop. So she was like, okay, what are you gonna do? So I was like, I don't know. We'll figure it out when I get there. So she didn't have that many clients that day. So it was like her. My dad was helping her do something like remodel something in the shop. So I had to use both of them to help me get out what we need to do. So my dad was helping too, and my mom was helping. So we had a dryer. So this one's called hot air, and it basically I have this like magnifying lens, which allows me to like get really close. So I did like this whole series of like different works in the hair salon. But this is like up close on the dryer and like capturing the sound, and these are all projected as well. So there's that one, and then I did another one called Heat Therapy, which includes my mom in it under the hair dryer. So like when I used to see hair dryer, I would look at it as like this little like space helmet, outer space thing. So I still do to this day. It's like this like outer space like super crazy machine. But it was like when you're under it, well I'm sure it's most of you women have been under a dryer. You can't really hear anything. So when you're talking, you're like ah. But then when you're out of it, like I'm like doing the different sounds of like when you're under it and when you're out of it. So you hear the sound change. So it's picking up on that. And so the sound changed, so this is like outside of the dryer. But for my thesis show, I ended up making it just this video, because this one was more captivating to me, which if we go to the end, let's see. And it's more like this meditative whenever I watch the women at my mom's salon in the dryer. It's like this whole meditation process. And then when we close their eyes, go to sleep. So, unless like it's taking too long and they've been under there too long and they like it's hot, I'm ready to go. So, yeah. And then I did another one called Buzz, which is using the clippers. So like, I wasn't ever scared to get my hair cut when I was little, but I'll see other kids be scared, and I'm like, why are they scared? But then I thought about it, and I was like, I guess it is scary. You got these sharp things, and they're normally loud, and buzzes on your head, so like, just doing an up close visual of what that looks like. And then hearing that sound, you know. And then I did another one, this is the one where my mom and dad both helped, called Lather. So it's just an up close visual of a shampoo and like seeing like the rinse, like getting the scalp clean. And again, dealing with the different sounds. So. And these are all large projections of all that happening. And then it gets to the rings, and then it gets to that. But those are all really fun to do. Oh yes, number one defense. Okay, so then I did this one. This was also my piece of show. Let me just go to that. So for my thesis show in for graduate school, it was called, the White Room Disruption. So like I did all of these different videos based off like different things that I was experiencing in grad school. So like being Black and the different social identities that I present out through the day to like please and make people feel comfortable, or like a certain teacher would come in, I don't know how much of Jamaal they would get versus like, because it's like, you know how I would be dealing with how much they can handle, or like can they really handle it, so it's like, you know, I would have to pick and choose, so unless I just felt like giving them the business, but most of the time it wouldn't be the case, so. But this was called the White Project. So I was asking different white people. This is before MTV did theirs. Just to So yeah, and like when I was shooting it, I only asked them one question and they all went off on these tangents. Which is interesting. This is where we all landed with blunt responses. So, and I was just really, it was really interesting to see like the engagement with me, like and how they wouldn't look at me when they were saying certain things. So it was all really interesting. And then to skip it up to like what's happening today and the different works I'm doing. So I'm doing more works based on like community and gentrification and what's happening in the different areas where I'm living. I live over in Lamert Park area and View Park. So, and with the train coming, there's like new people arriving. So it's very interesting to see the dynamics of how the community is changing and how I get scared. Like, what am I doing here? Like I don't belong or something. It's like, but you're walking your dog at 3 in the morning. Like, that's okay. But in the jungles, whatever. But I've noticed more of like the plant life and the different things that are taken out of the community. So I was doing one on palm trees. So like when palm trees aren't native to LA. So like when they die, like you can't replace them. So like I've noticed like some of them are dying and some of them are being just chopped down, just diminished from these communities, which make what these communities are. They're like historical. Like when people come to LA, they want to see the palm trees like on that, in the Avs, off Crenshaw and all of that. They want to see the palm trees like, ooh, it's like the movies. So it's almost like these historic like figures standing and like they've seen different types of communities and areas. Like, cause I mean, I know in my area, it wasn't always black. So like, it was like a lot of Jewish people and it was like all white back in the day. But it changed after white flight happened. But Palm Creatures, which is the video in there, it was more based off of palm trees, like in the community and how some of them in some areas, like if you go up in the hill, like they take care of them, they groom them, they like get them trimmed. But if you go down in the flat areas, like lower in the abs, like, they're falling apart and they're dying. And it's like, I was doing this video capturing them on a windy day, and I did these abstract digital manipulation to make them look like creatures. And if you look at them, you get different manipulations and different creatures throughout them, which was really cool to me. So. And just watching the movement of them and how some of them fall over during when it's like when it rained a couple weeks ago, like a lot of them were falling over trees, were falling over. But it's what makes, I feel like it's what makes these communities, the different trees and plants that they plant in the areas, and it's like once they go away, then it's like, what do we have left? So, as far as history. And then I did one with helicopters. So last summer in Lamar Park, the helicopter came every day at 5 o'clock and it would fly around for like 2 hours. Then it would leave, and then I would hear it come back at 9 o'clock and it would fly around for 2 more hours and then leave again. This happened every day for like 2 months straight. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on. So I was like, I'll have to go out and start videotaping these different helicopters. So this one is one of at night, where it was like lately, like lights in everyone's homes, like waking everybody up, and it's just like how I know this would not happen if it was Palisades, like, or Palisades. And then I like put Common, the light song, and I put it in reverse and chopped and screwed it, so. But it just sat in place and just shined the light. Just low, really loud, like, there is no going to sleep, wake up. Yeah. And it's like an invasion of like everyone's like peace and like what's happening. But I guess when you live there for a while, like, you learn to zone out sometimes. But this was just like hella loud. I was like, what the hell? And then circles was, again, the same thing. I caught another during the day, one day I got off work. And these, it was more than one helicopter. So it was like, they were like tag teaming each other, like zooming. They were going so fast, like flying around in circles, like I don't know what happened. But it was always like, you kind of know when you're going to hear the helicopter because you hear like, pop, 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 pop. And then like 5 minutes later, it's a helicopter, so. And the summer's just popping like that regardless because nobody's going to sleep. And so all these bad things are happening. And this is the one that's displayed in this program. So yeah, as of right now, I'm working on some new bodies of work, dealing with like moms and daughters, since I have so many nieces. So they'll be featured in a couple of my works. One of my works she was featured in was Milk, one of them. And now there's like 2 more, so they're going to get their cameos as well. But this is transactive memory, Milk. And it was so hard to get her to sit there. We had to hold her attention. We all were like, look this way, keep going. But So there'll be more videos of that nature coming up soon, and I'll be putting on solo shows. I just got my studio, so I have studio business now. Get out there and see. So yeah, thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions for Kim or Jamaal?
Or both of us.
Actually, I have a question for both of you. So I noticed that hair plays a very prominent, I guess, place in your platform, as well as like self-expression through your beauty. Do you find it to be a spiritual connection when it comes to your art? On top of that, one other question: how do you make sure that you don't completely allow your art to abuse you, like encompass you as a human?
I think that art making itself is a spiritual thing because it comes from the depths. It comes from a place, at least for me personally when I work, I used to try to think out everything first. I stopped sketching a long time ago. I used to try to overly think, and I stopped. I started just working from a raw place, and then I dissected after the fact. So it's, in a way, it's like having church by yourself and then having the Bible study after. Like after. But I think that for me, I have to take breaks from making because it is such a spiritual thing, and there is, anytime you're using your body, because art is also entertainment as well, even though it teaches to people, there's also an entertainment element to it, a visual entertainment element to it. I think that you have to take a break from time to time. Sometimes I leave the studio and won't make work for like a month or two because you have to give yourself a rest and you need to recharge. Because otherwise you pick yourself sometimes so much that you kind of can't. You just can't think.
So what was the question?
So with it being like a spiritual thing, pretty much the findings of the question was, how do you not allow it to completely like encompass you and like
Oh, okay. Got you. So, I do different mediums of work. So I'll just sweat your medium. I'll be like, I deal with that today. So, and I'll be like, I'm going to paint or I'm going to draw or take pictures.
Which I think is a commonality you see in our work. There's a lot of like bouncing, like I did this and then I went back to see this.
Yeah.
And then I did this because, yeah,
I
sometimes
do a lot of
you get frustrated or things aren't happening the way you probably want them to, or you just get tired of it. And I think that's one of the benefits in working in multimedia is that when you feel like you've exhausted something, you can leave it, take a break, and go to something else.
How did the white people react to seeing the social video?
So they were scared because they were like, they didn't know how I was going to present it. And they're like, well, I just feel like this is an attack on us. And I was like, how is this an attack? Y'all also attack. And so they were like, I was like, it's going to be fine. Like, it's going to make sense. It's going to be just you expressing yourself. And I was like, I'll chop it up and it's going to all make sense. So a lot of them, they didn't want to go watch it for like a cool minute because the way I had my thesis show set up is like you walked in a room and that was the first video. So there's like a wall and the entrance and that's the video here and the speakers. So you open the curtains and then boom, there's that one and then you walk around to see the rest of the works. So, I mean, they were like, oh, I didn't know you were going to put it right there. And I'm like, it was important to know. You just participated and that's what it is. And it's here and happening. So, yeah.
So I mean, after you made it and they saw it, how did they react to it?
They all liked it. They were like, oh, cool. It wasn't bad. They had some fear. I don't know if they were scared for it, but after they watched it, they were like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what I'm saying, and I can see like what whiteness is and how I do not get privileges. So, and from how everybody else was reacting to it as well. So. But then again, as other artists being in the video, it was like that whole idea of them like not wanting to see themselves on camera. So.
them to agree to do it? Like, did you tell them that it was?
So, well, I got them in the room first, individually. And then it was just me and them. I was like, it's just going to be me and you. And then you just tell me and be honest. And I was like, you can say whatever you want to say. Like, I'm not going to get mad. And they knew me, so like, they were more comfortable because it was just me and them in the room and nobody else. I was like, it's just me, you, and the council. So just say what you feel and, you know, put it out there. And then it made it easier for them and more comfortable. And I had to keep a straight face the whole time, like, not make faces.
Now that's
So that was like really, I did really good though. Like I didn't make any faces at all. And I make faces. And it was like, I didn't make any. So, because I didn't want them to be like, because you know they say facial expression, then they switch up what they're saying. So I didn't know that to happen. So like I had to be good on making faces. Yeah.
So that somebody said to you, well, you know, Mark Bradford's mother does hair, and then you said, and I thought, well, he's not the, she's not the only one who does hair. And then you said, I embedded the black self into the white wall and the white space. As someone who is a Caucasian American and makes art about race, I'm mystified about how to enter the dialogue without like, bringing in like guilt, bringing in like privilege, or dealing with my white guilt or my white privilege in a way that's constructive. And I even feel a little risky about asking the question. I don't know how to approach our community as an artist deeply concerned with race, as a white or Caucasian American. I don't know how to enter the dialogue in a constructive way. So my question is, like, any advice?
So I would say it would just be you doing your own research on it first and getting a better understanding and then asking questions about what you've researched. And then knowing both sides of the story. Like, so like I feel like growing up, I got to learn about white history all my life, all through elementary school. And then on top of that, going from elementary school to going home and my dad saying, well, this is what really happened, and then adding on that was missing from the history book. So I got to grow up with both sides of the story, so I understand full circle how it works. So like, I think that's just doing research and then reading about it and then going, okay, so what's alternative fact and what's not? And knowing the difference. And knowing when to bring it into an argument and when not to. So, I don't know.
And I think to dovetail on that, also making sure that you're not telling a story that's not yours to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that you are telling from an honest space, but also not being afraid. This is the thing. It's complicated. I mean, it's really a complicated construct that we're talking about here. And this is a conversation that needs to happen between both communities. But the thing is, both parties can't be afraid to have the conversation and can't be afraid to upset one another. Because you're not going to say everything right. We're not going to say everything right. But you have to come with your guards, willing to put your guards down to have the discussion. Because toes are going to be stepped on. And you have to be willing to listen and accept, you know what, maybe I was wrong on that and that wasn't my place to engage in that way. And it goes both ways. So I guess my only advice, because like I said, it's a really difficult thing. I don't know, I'm not in your shoes, so I can't tell you from your perspective what you should do or what are the right things to do. But what I can tell you is to be genuine and to be honest and to not be afraid and to continue to ask questions like that. Because those questions create these kinds of dialogues. So that's what I can say.
I mean, when you said that somebody said to you, well, Mark Bradford's mother does hair, you are just like him. The horror in myself was that I have said things that stupid. certainly more than one time, and innocently for the most part. I forget the terminology for it, but it's sort of like benign racism that we all participate in all the time. And so to make art, sort of from what you said, from my perspective, of that side of the equation, it seems worth doing, but it seems hard to find a sincere place to do it from and a sincere constituency to present it to.
Well, I was reading Dr. Georgia Brewery's post-traumatic black slave syndrome, and so she has a YouTube video where she's like breaking down her research, and so what she does is, and when she's speaking to a room full of white people about this topic, she starts off by saying, okay, there's about half of you who are going to get up and walk out as soon as I get started, and then all the rest of you are going to listen and be open and be ready to hear what I have to say. You might have questions, and I'm here to answer them. But she's open. I think it's just more about being open and how you present it, and not going in mad or angry, because it's it's just a discussion, so you can't go in mad or angry. So, and then and just being able to listen and hear someone out before speaking, before you hear them say everything they need to say. So just listening to it.
I mean, to put it bluntly, for both sides, if you're going to engage in a conversation, the dialogue with one another, you got to check your chip at the door. You need to leave your chip on your shoulder about it at the door. And you have to, like you said, be willing to really genuinely listen. Not, oh yeah, I heard you, but listen. And don't try to speak just to engage in argument, because that happens a lot in those conversations. Just to play devil's advocate a lot of times, that there's always a counter to a scenario. There's a counter to every scenario. But the reality is that these issues are not just issues here in the United States. It's a global issue for blacks, for the diaspora, everywhere. So there's this idea that I come across a lot that, well, I read it in a book, and it wasn't until I read it in a book that I knew that this was happening. Well, what the hell do you think people have been saying all this time? We just was making it up. If this many people are saying these things, and the reality is this is a reality for the vast majority of people who walk on the face of this earth. And so you have to be willing to accept that. I think that's what it is the acceptance. And like you said, sometimes you participate in these things without you realizing you're doing it, because it's so ingrained in our society as human beings. That's the thing about race. Race doesn't care who it offends. All it cares about is its bottom line. And at the end of the day, its bottom line is economical gain. That's what it cares about. It doesn't care if it hurts this person over here making money, or if it actually helps the black guy out over here making money. Look at this Uber-Lyft situation. You could argue that Lyft jumped on the bandwagon because they saw an opportunity to make $1 because they sided with the brown guy. So it doesn't matter for race itself as a construct. It's once it was started and put into motion, it's a well-oiled machine. It doesn't matter. It's going to keep going, and it's going to continue to propel itself until we as humanity, I know it's a very humanistic outlook, but that's the reality of it, that it tells we as humanity accept what race actually is and how it functions.
Me? What you had said when you first started your presentation, that when you went to school in Albright School, that you didn't look typically or black. Could you talk more about it?
So one more time?
You had said that you did not look typically black. Could you talk a little bit more about what that means for you?
Yes. For me, I was actually told that I didn't look typically black. And that's the experience that I've had, is that from both sides of the fence, my blackness has been told to me in an accusation type of way. What are you, or you're this, or meeting a group of kids at 10 years old and the first thing you say to me is, where are you from? One of your parents has to be white. It's not a question. It was a declarative statement that was made to me. And that is when I started to understand, maybe my family demographic or the way that I look is not typical or normal. I mean, my brother and I, to me, we look just alike, but because we are fairer skinned, then he has fairer skin than I do, and his hair is straighter than me. And it was constantly, y'all got the same mom and dad? You sure? So that's when I started to understand that according to social norms, my appearance or my family's appearance was not typical. Obviously, once I left that demographic and saw the rest of the world, I realized that Black people come in such a wide variety, and that unfortunately the kids that I went to school with had not left their neighborhood for the most part, and didn't understand themselves that they come in a different variety. And it was the first time they were encountered with someone that looked like me, that was from the same culture that they're from. My brother used to be accused of being Hispanic all the time. Well, why don't you speak Spanish? Because I'm not Hispanic. You know, I actually remember as a child not thinking that everyone in my family was from a different ethnic category, because everybody looks so different. I thought my grandmother was a short Sicilian lady, and that both of my grandfathers were white men, but they were Black. I remember seeing my grandfather at high school driving in Inglewood in his truck, and I was like, what is that white man doing over here? And then as I'm sitting at the red light staring, and I realized, oh, that's my grandfather. So even myself, you get sucked up. That's what I'm talking about the structure that we all participate in, whatever side of the fence you're on, you participate in, because that's what you're taught. You're taught from the time that you're little that this is how things function, and they function off of these initial appearances. But being in that kind of family, I realized that they're not real. For all intents and purposes, the rest of the world, my grandparents walked around this earth as white men, but they weren't. And because of that, they used to tell me all the time, when you tell you white people do evil stuff to you, because they grew up during Jim Crow era, and they spent their lives at work passing. And so they had the experience of being with a group of white people talking about Black people in front of them, and not being able to say anything so that they can keep their jobs and provide for their families. And so when that stuff is being told to you as a child, that never leaves you. That never ever leaves you. And then when you start to actually see it happen, because I mean, part of you as a kid, you're like, yeah, right, people aren't that bad. But then when you see it happening, you know, there's no denying it. And I think that we spend a lot of time as Americans in particular, because I can only speak from an American perspective, trying to pretend like it's not there. We spend a lot of time trying to throw blankets and rugs over stuff instead of just accepting, you know what, this is our history, this is what it is. Now how do we move on from there? We always trying to put a $2 Band-Aid on a like gaping wound.
Are there any other questions?
I had one, just to get a little more into your practice. I was curious about intimacy, joy, privacy, a little difference in intimacy in your work, especially because what you both have in common is, at least in some of the work that you showed, all of the work that you produced, using your own cosmetics, using Black hair care products within, you know, the kind of idiom of fine arts, right? So with the acrylic, it's like, okay, I'm using Pro Gel, and you were clear for each one of your pieces to indicate that, again, these are all my cosmetics. So I wanted to just hear a little more about the significance of those choices, the kind of maybe chance operations of working with it, or the intention of using these products. Like Pro Gel is kind of like a kind of I don't want to call it a little black and out there, but because I don't know what cosmetics you're using.
Yeah.
If you name certain things, and especially if you were kind of old school, if you said, well, this is, I keep using Queen Helene for this and this, and this and that. So I'm just really curious about what you're kind of like putting into your work from yourselves and maybe more broadly from Black life or women's life or men's life as well.
So like, for me, it was just growing up with all of those, being around it all the time. But watching my younger, so me and my sister were just a year apart. And so me and my brother are 7 years apart. And so I was the last boy. And then after that, I have all real cousins. And it's like me, and then it's stair steps after that, and all boys. So like, whenever I want to go out with like my older brothers and cousins, like my mom would be like, no, you can't go, but you know. But you can go with the cousins over here. And so I'll be with like all the girls. And I would have to like watch them and like, be with them and have sleepovers and everything. So like being there and watching them and then them doing their baby hairs or like, with the toothbrush and or watching them like braid each other's hair and like play, and I would have to like help them play double dutch because they're like, we need somebody else to turn, and I've got to like play with them and do all these things. So it's just more like watching them, and then again not having money, and I was like, what materials I got around here? So you see that Blue Magic sitting there on the counter, and it's been sitting there for like years. So I'm supposed to use it because nobody else uses it, so it goes into the artwork. So it's just like being resourceful.
That creates a different kind of intimacy though for your work, and because that's not always the, well, let me just rephrase what I was about to make a blanket declarative statement, which I do not want to make. It's nice to hear expressed the relationship with women and girls in your practice. And so reaching for those products, maybe also kind of bringing all that memory.
Yep.
And I think for me, when I'm casting, I see casting as a photograph. And it's a photograph of myself, so I'm going to make a photograph of myself. I'm going to use what I would normally put on my skin for a photograph, to prep myself for a photograph. So that was part of the decision as to why I use my cosmetics, and I'm very specific about using what I use on my face. And I also think it's about, I mean, cosmetics for Black women is a whole other conversation because up until very recently, it was very limited. And sometimes I would even use, like, for my own personal makeup, you like use stage makeup so you can mix stuff together to make things work for you. But it really was because to me, I'm making a photograph of myself. But then there's also this aspect as to where once I make the cast, I feel a detachment from it because it's not me, it's a copy of me. And I also think that being very personal makes my work more accessible to everyone. I think for a while I tried, like when I was doing the body work, it wasn't as personal at first with the paintings. And then when I started using the actual sculptures and then using my makeup on the sculptures, I connected with more people because I think telling your story, because that's the only story I can tell, honestly. Telling my story, more people can relate because you're not as special as you think sometimes, you know. People are always going through similar things. So I think that's the reason that I choose to be personal and intimate. And I think that working from that space as an artist of color, there's things in my work that my viewers who are of color look at, that they understand that it doesn't have to be an explanation. And I like that. I like that there doesn't have to be an explanation. I like that you don't necessarily need to read an artist statement about me in order to understand what's happening, because I don't think that happens enough in the art spaces for people of color. We don't see ourselves there. So I think it's important to insert myself in that conversation to start to make there's been plenty of people before me who paved the way for me to be here, but we got a lot more work to do, and I think that it's somewhat of a duty to make Blackness as available as possible, and in a wide variety of ways.
Anybody else?
I know it's getting late and we're kind of wrapping up, but I just want to contribute that really appreciated the conversation and also seeing you guys work. And I really enjoyed hearing this kind of dialogue about race happening in this space and how it's kind of playing out. To some degree, I feel like the work here, the range of people, the range of backgrounds that's being represented here has all helped us to sort of listen to each other. You guys are talking about listening, to see each other, to essentially like echolocate ourselves, basically. And I do think that like, seeing and listening does take a meditative kind of space. It takes time. And I just want to really thank Lisa Soto for making this kind of space and this time, over the course of time, happen. Because we've all been part of conversations that have extended throughout last year, and now we're in this kind of physical space together. I don't know that this will ever happen again in this place. So I just wanted to thank Lisa for
Bonding and conversations can continue over food. So we have food in the back, and we can eat out here where we've set up a little area for everybody. I want to thank Jamaal and Kim Tien for a very beautiful, powerful conversation and added to our gorgeous series. John Chen is also part of the Artist Talk today. And so thank you everybody for coming and joining us in the back for food.